The school pickup line crawled forward. Daniel watched Emma through the rearview mirror, her 13-year-old face pale, arms wrapped around her middle. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The way she held herself, the tremble in her voice, the desperate look in her eyes. "Of course, sweetheart," Daniel said, pulling out of line and into the empty lot behind the gymnasium. His heart hammered. In 16 years of parenting, he'd learned to trust his instincts, and right now every alarm bell was screaming. Emma climbed into the front seat, her backpack clutched to her chest like a shield. She wouldn't meet his eyes. "Emma, what's going on?" Daniel turned to face her fully, reaching out to touch her shoulder. She flinched and his stomach dropped. "Dad, her voice cracked. "I need to show you something, but you have to promise not to freak out." "I promise I'll try," Daniel said carefully. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together." Emma's hands shook as she slowly lifted the edge of her oversized sweater. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Across her ribcage, angry purple bruises bloomed like storm clouds, fresh ones overlapping older, yellowing marks. Some were perfectly round, the size of fingertips. Others stretched in long lines as if something had struck her repeatedly. "Oh my God!" The words escaped before Daniel could stop them. "Emma, who did this to you?" Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. "Coach Patterson, during gymnastics practice. It's been happening since the season started." White-hot rage flooded through Daniel, followed immediately by crushing guilt. How had he not noticed? Emma had been coming home tired, wearing baggy clothes, making excuses to skip practice. He'd attributed it to teenage mood swings and the stress of 8th grade. "Tell me everything," Daniel said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Every single detail." The story that poured out of Emma shattered him. Coach Patterson, respected, award-winning, beloved by parents, had been systematically abusing the girls on the team for months. It started with corrections during practice, painful grabs and twists disguised as technique adjustments. Then came the private sessions where he claimed to be preventing injuries through aggressive massage. The girls who resisted found themselves benched or cut from competition teams. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Daniel asked, then immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry that came out wrong, He said no one would believe us," Emma whispered. "He said we were clumsy and hurting ourselves, and parents would think we were just making excuses for being bad athletes. And Dad," fresh tears streamed down her face, "I was scared you'd be disappointed in me for quitting." Daniel pulled Emma into his arms, careful of her injuries. "Listen to me. This is not your fault, none of it, and I could never, ever be disappointed in you for protecting yourself." Emma sobbed against his shoulder while Daniel's mind raced. He'd read about cases like this, predators hiding in plain sight, using positions of authority to silence victims. The pattern was textbook: isolate, intimidate, create a culture of fear and shame. "How many others?" Daniel asked gently. "At least 6 that I know of, maybe more." Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. "We've tried to talk about it, but he always seems to know, like someone's reporting back to him." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. "We're going to the police, right now." "Dad, no," panic flashed across Emma's face. "The other girls, their parents don't know yet, if I go first." "Then we'll help them come forward too," Daniel interrupted. "Emma, I know you're scared, but this man is dangerous and he's counting on your silence. The only way to stop him is to speak up." He pulled out his phone and started typing. "I'm texting your mother first. Then I'm calling our lawyer friend, Karen. She specializes in cases like this. We're going to do everything by the book, and we're going to make sure this monster never hurts another child." Emma's lip trembled. "What if people think I'm lying? What if?" "We have evidence." Daniel gestured to the bruises. "We're going to photograph every mark and we're going straight to the hospital to have them documented. Then we go to the police. And Emma," he waited until she met his eyes, "I will move heaven and earth to protect you and make sure justice is served. That's a promise." The next hours blurred together. Sarah, Emma's mother, met them at the emergency room, her face white with fury and grief. The ER doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Chen, photographed the injuries with clinical precision while explaining that the patterns were consistent with repeated physical abuse. "I'm mandated to report this," Dr. Chen said quietly, "but I can tell you're already planning to go to the police. These photographs will be crucial evidence." At the police station, Detective Maria Santos listened with grim attention as Emma recounted her story. Daniel watched his daughter's courage grow with each word. The trembling child from the car had transformed into a determined young woman, her voice strengthening as she described what had happened. "You're incredibly brave," Detective Santos said when Emma finished. "I want you to know that. Coming forward like this, it's going to help so many others." "The other girls," Emma said. "Can we contact them? They need to know they're not alone." Detective Santos nodded. "We'll need to handle this carefully. But yes, we'll reach out to the other families. With your testimony and physical evidence, we have grounds for an immediate investigation." By evening, Coach Patterson had been arrested. The news spread through the school community like wildfire. Daniel's phone exploded with messages, some supportive, others skeptical, and a few openly hostile. Apparently, Patterson had deep roots in the community and a lot of defenders. "People are saying Emma's making it up for attention," Sarah said that night, staring at her phone in disbelief. "That she's just a drama queen who couldn't handle tough coaching." Daniel felt his anger surge again, but Emma's voice cut through it. "Let them talk," she said quietly. She sat at the kitchen table, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "I know the truth. The other girls know the truth, and soon everyone will know." She was right. Over the next week, 5 more families came forward. The girls' stories were devastatingly similar: the painful corrections, the intimidation, the bruises hidden under team uniforms. The physical evidence was overwhelming. The community fractured. Parents who had praised Patterson as a miracle coach now faced the horrifying realization that they'd entrusted their children to a predator. School board meetings devolved into shouting matches. Some demanded answers about how this could have happened. Others clung to disbelief, insisting there must be some misunderstanding. Daniel and Sarah stood firm. They hired Corinne to represent Emma, coordinated with the other families, and refused to let the backlash silence them. When people criticized Emma on social media, Daniel responded with facts: the medical reports, the police statements, the pattern of abuse. "You're making enemies," Corinne warned him. "Some powerful people in this town don't want to believe that someone they respected could do something like this." "Then they need to face reality," Daniel said flatly. "My daughter's safety, and the safety of every child, is more important than anyone's reputation or comfort." The preliminary hearing came 6 weeks after that conversation in the car. Emma testified in front of a judge, describing the abuse in clear, unwavering terms. Daniel sat in the courtroom, his hand clasped with Sarah's, watching their daughter speak truth to power. Patterson's lawyer tried to discredit her, suggesting the bruises came from gymnastics training. But Dr. Chen's testimony demolished that theory. The injury patterns were inconsistent with normal athletic impacts and showed clear evidence of intentional harm. When 5 other girls testified with nearly identical stories, the judge ordered Patterson held for trial. Outside the courthouse, media had gathered. Daniel started to steer Emma away from the cameras, but she stopped him. "I want to say something," she said. She stepped up to the microphones, Daniel and Sarah flanking her. The brave young woman who'd whispered in the car 2 months ago now stood tall, shoulders back. "My name is Emma Hartwell," she said clearly, "and I'm not ashamed. What happened to me and the other girls on my team was wrong. It was abuse, and we're speaking up because no child should have to suffer in silence the way we did." Her voice grew stronger. "If you're being hurt by someone in authority, a coach, a teacher, anyone, please tell someone you trust. It's not your fault. You deserve to be safe. And to the adults watching, believe us. Listen to us, protect us. That's your job. The video went viral. Emma's words sparked a conversation about safety in youth sports that rippled across the country. Other victims came forward with stories about Patterson and other coaches. The Gymnastics Association launched an investigation into systemic abuse. The trial took place 8 months later. Daniel sat through every day of testimony, holding Sarah's hand as they listened to their daughter, and 5 other brave girls describe what they'd endured. The defense tried everything: character assassination, victim blaming, suggesting the girls had conspired together. But the evidence was irrefutable. Medical reports, photographs, testimony from parents who had noticed changes in their children's behavior, text messages Patterson had sent that, in light of the accusations, read as clear evidence of manipulation and control. The jury took less than 4 hours to return a verdict: guilty on all counts. When the judge sentenced Patterson to 15 years in prison, Emma gripped Daniel's hand. She didn't smile or celebrate. She simply nodded once, as if confirming something she'd known all along: that truth, no matter how difficult, would ultimately prevail. In the parking lot afterward, one of the other girls' mothers approached them. "Thank you," she said to Emma. "If you hadn't been brave enough to speak up first, my daughter might never have found her voice." Emma hugged her, and Daniel watched as the 6 families formed a circle in the parking lot, united by trauma but refusing to be defined by it. That evening, back in their car, the same one where this journey had begun, Emma turned to Daniel. "Dad, do you remember what you promised me, that day when I showed you the bruises?" "That I'd move heaven and earth to protect you," Daniel said. Emma smiled, really smiled, for the first time in months. "You did, and you taught me something even more important." "What's that?" "That speaking up, even when you're terrified, even when people don't want to hear it, that's how you change things. That's how you protect yourself and others." She looked out the window. "I want to help other kids who have been hurt. Maybe start a support group or work with organizations that protect athletes." Pride swelled in Daniel's chest. The girl who'd whispered her secret in fear had become a young woman ready to turn her pain into purpose. "Then we'll figure out how to do that," Daniel said, "together." As they drove home, Daniel reflected on those 5 words that had changed everything. "Dad, can we talk in the car?" In that moment, Emma had trusted him with the hardest truth of her young life. And in return, he'd given her something equally important: the unwavering certainty that her voice mattered, her safety mattered, and that no fear or shame could ever be more powerful than a father's love and a daughter's courage. The road ahead would have challenges. Healing took time, and the scars weren't just physical. But as they pulled into their driveway, the house lights glowing warm in the darkness, Daniel knew they would face whatever came next the same way they'd faced everything since that pivotal conversation. Together, truthful and unafraid.